Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. It's that time again, time for Beyond 50 to bring to you the yearly predictions as we do every year. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is spiritual mystic healer Sonja Grace. She has also been featured not only on this radio program, many radio programs such as Coast to Coast, and also in National Enquirer, which from what I understand will be back there this year to be able to help along with the predictions in the National Enquirer magazine. We're going to be talking about what's up, what's coming up, and what we can definitely perhaps anticipate, especially when it comes to a year where we're going to be seeing a brand new President of the United States. Sometimes I shudder to think how all this is going to turn out. So we're going to find out what this is all about. You can also discover more at SonjaGrace.com. And I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Sonja Grace. Sonja, thank you for joining us again here on the program.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I always love getting time to be on Beyond 50.
Now, tell us, we've got a lot going on in store. Here we got Donald Trump. He's blowing his horn. He's way ahead in the lead. But something tells me that's a distraction there, that really something else is going to be going on, and we can't really count on the fact that perhaps he'll be our next fearless leader.
Okay. First thing I want to say to your listeners is I'm so glad you guys are all listening, and thank you for being there. And the next thing is that this year, 2016, is the year of transformation. It is absolutely, totally about transformation on all levels. Everything on Earth is going to transform in some way, shape, energy-wise. It's going to transform. And Donald is going to transform in his own way, too. Unfortunately, what I've seen for him is a possible health issue that actually takes him out of the race. So there may be something that happens with Donald that creates a situation where he has to deal with his health first. I see Jeb Bush as the opposite running against Hillary, and I do see Hillary winning. So there it is, my prediction for the election. I think that there's a lot of turbulence in not only in politics but all aspects of the world. A lot of people call me and say, Sonja, what's happening? Everything's kind of wonky and upside down. And it's because of this energy that we're in, this transformational energy. And my advice to everyone is, watch the circus, but don't be a part of it.
There you
watch
go.
it all happening. Yep.
Interesting stuff. I know it's funny because I've been kind of catching news shows here around when it comes to the elections, and they feel that what's going to happen, even as low as Jeb Bush is in the ratings, and what's going to happen is the comeback will happen because a bunch of money is going to be thrown in his direction. They're going to say, this is the guy that we really want to have in office. And especially with the American people, we're getting to a point where we, at one point with Barack Obama, felt that, our vote was actually heard, but there was a distraction because all of a sudden, according to many, he just didn't turn out to be what he said he was going to be, and so there's a sense of frustration. And I think at this point, that apathy is coming back. Do you kind of feel that yourself?
Yes, I do. I do. And there's a lot of uncertainty. People have their expectations, they have their belief systems, and all of these things are creating our future with the same sort of unpredictability and illusion that we've created in the past. And the whole purpose of the fifth dimension that we're in right now, this higher vibration, this higher frequency, and this year of transformation, is that we're all going to have to get down and be really real with each other, with situations on the planet, with politics, with everything. And if we're not acting from a real place, that energy of transformation is going to make sure that there is some realness coming through. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like, it's got to be real.
So talking about real, obviously, we're dealing with one big issue, which is gun control here in the United States. Tell us about that, how that's all going to turn out.
Well, I feel, and my guides have said, that this is not anything that's going to change overnight. it is something that will end up with regulation. There will be some much stricter regulations placed, but it's not going to be until towards the end of next year. And I actually see, Obama putting some things in place, and when Hillary is elected, it's going to really take hold when she's in office. That this is something that will really happen with her being elected. People are always going to have guns. There's always going to be, the right to own guns, etc. But I feel that the regulations on buying and selling and all of that is going to get stricter and stricter, so that we don't hopefully have the problems we've had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But it's interesting about gun control, because to me it seems people are going to get a hold of guns no matter what you put into place. It's really, how do we get to a point that we can stop these people from doing some of the crazy things that we've been seeing happen?
Right, and you can equate that with, people are going to get a hold of heroin if they want to.
That's true.
Right? I mean, really what we have to come to as a society is what is healthy. What's healthy for us, what is healthy for all of us as a collective, as a village, as a group that lives in this town or this country or the world collective. What is healthy for all of us? And we're kind of blocked by ego, by belief systems, by expectations and fear. And those things block people so that they build this, great wall in front of them saying, nope, I'm going to protect my own, and I'm going to be safe. And it's like, really? Okay. So let me see. The magnetic field around the Earth is weakening, and it's weakening to such a point that we could end up with a solar flare that completely annihilates all life on Earth, and we have a complete do-over like we did during the dinosaurs or some other, phase on planet Earth. It's those kinds of thoughts that I think of, my Aquarian mind, to people who are really bent on protecting their own. It's like, okay, protect away, but there's a much bigger picture here.
I like that you say that, because so often when we pay attention to what is being told to us by the media, is that there's this feeling that, we can just control everything, that it's all up to us and the big wigs that are going to make the decisions, that protect and make all these decisions for us. But, like you, I remember back when Y2K was going on. I remember at first I was a little afraid, like, well, what's that all about? And I looked into it and I thought, this is ridiculous. The worst that's going to happen is the grid's going to go down and people are going to go bat nuts like they typically do over stupid things rather than thinking through,
right,
a challenge. And I thought, this is no big deal. I didn't even prepare for it. And sure enough, the next day came, the sun came up into the air, which is what I predicted would happen. Mm-hmm. Streams were still going to flow and the birds were still going to sing. And I thought, right, gee whiz, people got all unraveled about this ridiculous thing that turned out to be really not much of anything. And so let's talk about that bigger picture. For instance, one of the craziest things is the weather. I mean, they're just,
right, right,
they're building dirt men in New York.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, right. Well, the weather is our measuring stick as to how things are developing and going. So what I have to say about the weather is it is going to continue to get kind of wilder and wonkier as time goes. We're probably going to see big droughts in the Midwest and really heavy rains in the Northwest. And, a colding trend, even though we had quite a warm fall and early winter in the Northeast, but I think ultimately a cold trend. And the bigger picture of this is that we are cooling, even though the media insists on reporting that the temperatures are up and the planet is warmer. It's actually not true. The planet is cooling. And this is the warming of the ocean waters. The waters are warming, and that's the trend before an ice age. The ocean gets warmer, everything starts to cool. I think we're going to have some really big tornadoes again in the east and the Midwest, some very severe crop damage. I want to suggest not for people to, get on a big worry train, because worry never did us any good, nor does fear. But I think it's good to be smart. I think tower gardens are incredible hydroponic gardens. And if you have the ability to put one on your deck and grow your own vegetables in a really cool way, I suggest that. I mean, to me, that's just being smart. And I feel that people are we get really excited about things, but we stop to remember that this is going to happen gradually. All of this stuff happens gradually. And what are we headed for? Honestly, we're headed for a big change. This is the end of a cycle, and we're all feeling it. Are we talking about it in that way? No. We're kind of dancing around it going, ooh, climate change, and ooh, an ice age. But we're coming to an end of a phase, probably within the next 100 years. And that means that, life on Earth will change. It is a scientific fact. The poles are shifting, and they're shifting from their north and south locations to below the equator. And this shift is causing our electromagnetic field, the gravitational field around the Earth to weaken. So obviously the Earth has a big change in mind. We're along for the ride.
Wow. Geez, so much to take in here. Now, the other thing that we're really wrapped up to is what's happening in the Middle East and also as well with North Korea. Tell us about that.
Well, I think that from what my guides have told me, there is potentially, and I'm all about let's visualize this not happening, but there is the potential of another war coming about in the Middle East, and this could be a bit of a challenge in that nuclear weapons might be threatened to be used, but will not be used. I think North Korea wants to jump in there and have a great deal more power than what they have right now. And my guides have said that they will continue to flex their muscles, but they will. It won't amount to anything. I think the real issues are there in the Middle East and what's going on with Syria and Iraq and Iran, and there's things that are so unresolved and that are so long-term karmically that seriously, we all of us listening, all of us around the world really need to drop into a deep state of peace, so that's what our energy is radiating throughout the world, so that we have some effect on them, because they need it.
Strange enough as it also happens as well. It's interesting because we've been talking about the situation, especially when it comes to the people with power and money and how they're trying to get everybody into the same monetary system. And there's only a couple of countries left before they succeed in that, and one of those is North Korea. But this really, a lot like Cuba, seems to be those nations that no matter how powerful somebody is, they just can't get in there and get a hold of these people. What's going on there?
Well, I think that there's certain insulation that gets built in. They're very insulated. And we have different realities on this planet. I mean, huge different realities. It blows my mind that there are groups of people in the Amazon who have never had contact with other people. Think about what their reality is. And that when they see an airplane go overhead, they must think that's some kind of, something from another star, another planet. So that's one reality. Then we have the reality that the North Koreans have. They've got their own bubble of reality. And they live within that, believing what they have been told. And then we have the reality here in the States of what we've been told. And then we have other realities of, no, that's really not quite the truth. There's this reality and there's this reality. And there's layers, like an onion. There's layers of truths and realities. And I marvel over all of the many realities here on planet Earth. And at some point, they're all going to come together, not this year of 2016, but they will all come together. And it will be quite an awakening. Quite an awakening.
And coming together, we've got to consider the fact that there's a possibility we might have more disclosure when it comes to beings from another world.
Absolutely. I think that we're going to have a lot of sightings. I think that UFOs are going to be much more visible because we're getting to that place in our transformation of this year of having to assimilate and handle that. And the most non-believing people will have that shock of this is actually real. And I see this happening more and more sightings, more very visual sightings, like clearly that's a UFO. And I believe, and my guides have said that even all the talk about the moon and that there's other, space stations, other beings living on the far side of the moon, there's a lot of, different things that have been reported. A lot of that, the truths about the moon are going to come out this year through other space exploration from other countries. And I feel that there's each year that we go, like I said, it's baby steps along the way, but there's more that's revealed. And 2016, I think, is going to be a real, kapowie for people, wow, coming to light.
Well, I think it's important to have that because we need to be shaken out of our foundations a little bit. And, the other thing I know that you've talked about is how, when it comes to 2016, that fear is the culprit of much of the unrest and that collectively we have to choose to evolve beyond fear to greater states of being and love. And certainly something like, let's say, aliens from other worlds coming here and trying to maybe reach across and get to know us, hopefully in a positive way, will be one of those things where we can discover our true natures.
Right. I mean, it's true that fear is truly the downfall of, society and the entire world. If we're fearful, we won't be able to handle some of these things. But I feel that we've been spoon-fed quite well. Hollywood has spoon-fed us to the reality of UFOs and aliens, and our government has very, covered it up very well and kept it from us. And, everybody's worked hard to dig all this stuff up and verify not only what they feel, but for many people what they've experienced and what they've seen, what they've actually gone through in terms of being abducted or whatever. And you're right. It's time that we take the lid off of humanity and remind everyone that we don't know everything. We're not as smart as we think we are. I mean, there was this huge supernova that is the brightest thing they've ever seen, out in our galaxy, and scientists have reportedly said, we don't know what caused this. We have no idea what would cause this great of capacity of light and energy. We have no idea. And it's like, you have top scientists in the world saying we don't know. That, to me, that's a clue. Humanity needs to pay attention and say, yeah, we don't know. We don't know everything there is to know out there.
It's just also fascinating, as you were saying earlier in the program, it's all bigger than us, but we can be big enough to rise to it.
And we can go through this transformational year from a place of surrender and releasing the resistance that we feel because we believe this or that. And really, most importantly, I feel, go within. It's an inside job. Every time we look outside of ourselves, we see chaos, we see unrest, we see fear, we see all kinds of stuff. It is truly time for people to go within and do the work inside so that we can handle the transformation of this year and all that's coming. And I want to take that right into the financial market because the financial market's been really kind of wonky and going down and, doing stuff at the first of the year now. And it's going to continue. It will keep kind of doing this old dive-bomby thing through January and February. It's going to come up a little bit in March and kind of dive back down. And it will come back into full strength in June and July. and then it's going to do a little bit of a wonky dance again. And when the elections have happened and everybody gets stabilized because now we know who's going to be the president, then it will even out again. But I don't see our financial market crashing at all. I think that there is much more stability there than what the media and everybody wants to get all riled up about.
Well, generally when they do something like that if you ever notice the commercials, there was the motivation behind the news program.
Right, exactly.
It's interesting, too, because just recently in President Barack Obama's State of the Union speech, his last one, he was talking about how the economy was at a particular level, especially in regards to unemployment. And I thought, that's a really bad measure to be able to tout your success with, because unemployment can only be measured by people who are actually filing and receiving unemployment claims. Most of these people ran out of steam. There's no more, employment benefits for them, so they fall off of that radar. That doesn't mean just because at one point we had 500,000 people unemployed and now we only have 250,000, geez, we dropped by 50%, and unemployment, that's a good thing. Well, no, because if you really pay attention to what he's saying is those are probably the people that they ran out of benefits, and they're just not looking for work anymore.
Exactly. The other thing that's going to be happening across the planet is there has been, I don't know if you keep an eye on this, but there's a lot of volcanoes erupting, and there's going to be more volcanic activity, because what this does is it's a part of the Earth's plan, which is there's going to be some changes and an ice age, and that the volcanic ash actually creates kind of an insulation around the Earth, and it starts to cool things down. So we'll probably see more volcanic activity. They said that there's a real big one in China that's going to go off, and that this is a good thing because it releases the pressure from the tectonic plates from shifting. So all of you earthquake watchers, it's a good thing. We don't have to worry about big earthquakes happening. The other thing that I wanted to talk about to you is there's a real spiritual revolution that's been going on, and a lot of people have been wondering what their purpose is and, what do I need to be doing while I'm here. There's just, it's just like the switch went off in everybody, and there was sort of a spiritual calling, if you will, and a lot of people getting involved on a spiritual level. And that's going to shift this year in this transformation that we're in that the people who have been in that space, been practicing those things, they're going to all kind of morph into a new direction, a new phase. A lot of light workers are going to end up with different careers and kind of catapulting into different areas of their life that they've wanted to do. And new upcoming people who are interested in things spiritually are actually going to get the message that they need to be applying that spiritualism to the earth, to what's happening with the earth. So there'll be a lot more involvement in, Greenpeace and movement that is really protecting and helping the planet. And I'm really excited about that because I've talked to so many people who are spiritually in this evolutionary process, but they're feeling lost and like they're not quite sure, what am I supposed to do with this? And this year is the year that it will come back to an earth-based program.
Well, that's very encouraging because I think what we need to start doing collectively, too, is start taking more personal responsibility for what happens as well as taking action if what we have as an outcome isn't satisfying so that we have what it is we want instead of leaving it all up to everybody else. I think we've, it seems over the last several decades, and there are exceptions definitely, but that we have kind of passed on all this responsibility for how things are for other people to resolve, and then we don't like the way they're resolved.
Right. And we've got a whole slew of crystal children that are becoming adults. They're young adults now, and a lot of those people are going to take that, incredible, connectivity that they have and apply it in science. And I see giant leaps in quantum physics and in molecular science, just huge discoveries being made because this generation of people are now entering, they're in college, they're getting degrees, they're starting to, and they are going into the science because thank God those crystal children can see that it's not about, sitting back with a crystal and gazing into it. It's about really getting active and doing something for the planet through a channel like that.
I can't help but think, as you said this earlier in the program, that you believe our next president will be Hillary Clinton. Now, that, of course, will be a first, just like Barack Obama was a first, but how can you predict that actually turning out if she does take office? I mean, what that government body will look like?
My guides have said that there's going to be, sort of a real let's clean house, let's get things squared away so that this is a working unit, as opposed to what President Obama has had to deal with, which is, he's in office, but there's all of these people not willing to work with him. I see more compatibility of people working with Hillary because they've worked with her before. So there's going to be some changes. I see her being a lot tougher on certain issues, but I also see her working in a way with, other countries on military issues and that kind of thing that will be beneficial for us. They will be good. I see it being a good move. I don't see her taking the country, to hell in a handbasket. And for those of you who don't support Hillary, that's okay. I understand. But
I think at this point, people are feeling it really doesn't matter who's in office. It's going to be the same old thing.
Well, and, eventually my prediction is we will not have a government body. We will not have government. But that's much further down the road. And I was talking to a woman this morning, and I was telling her that I feel women today need to be very aware of their surroundings. They need to be very clear about who they are and where their energy is going. This is true of men as well. But the archetype I gave her to really, really think about and look at was I can't remember the actress's name, the woman who plays the main role in Terminator.
Oh, okay. If you're talking about the original one, I believe that was Linda Hamilton.
Yes, Linda Hamilton. It's sort of that fierceness that she had. We need to be fierce. We need to really, and I mean fierce about our energy, what we're doing with it, and being very clear about the bigger role that we're all playing. We are all warriors. We are all here on the planet, but we're warriors for the planet. We're warriors to help this planet. And instead, we get sidetracked and we want a war with each other. Whether it's having a fight with your spouse or it's having a fight with the community or you're ticked off at somebody at your college. That's not what it's about. We're supposed to be fighting for this planet. And even if the planet's going through some major change, it's still important that we fight for this planet. Because what we do in this lifetime sets us up for the next lifetime. And if we become complacent and we don't care and we act like, whatever, I'm just going to throw my trash in, the trash bin and not recycle, and I'm going to spill oil out onto the ground because it really doesn't matter. You're setting yourself up karmically for how it's going to be for you in the next lifetime, which is, maybe you come back as a rodent. I'm kidding, but yeah,
either that or you'll become part of the government body and you'll be a rat.
Right. You'll be experimented on. I mean, the point is that I feel we all need to be very mindful about how we are accountable for our energy. And that's the other big thing in this year of transformation, is there is no more victim. There is the victim role, the perpetrator role. It's like those are diminishing as much as the duality is diminishing. And the sooner we can understand that we have lifetimes of experience and karma, and we are all here for a very specific reason. We're all here to experience our lives based on that karma and work that karma out. We take responsibility for that. The faster we heal each other and the planet. But if we keep insisting that this is happening to me and, oh my God, look at what happened, my neighbor just spilled his oil out onto my grass, and like somehow you're a victim in that, that's old. That's behind us. That way of thinking is not going to survive this higher vibration that we're in.
And the encouraging thing, too, as you talk about this higher vibration, I know we talked about it the last time we were talking about predictions, is the acceleration of desires, for instance, that's happening a lot faster. I notice sometimes when I would think a thought, there it was in front of me, and I was, really surprised by that. And other people are feeling the same way, too. I know we've also talked about time acceleration. There were some that thought, well, I just thought it was just me getting older, but when they hear kids saying, geez, last week just kind of flew by sort of a thing, you got to realize that we're in an accelerated curve, that this idea of complacency, as you're saying, and this idea of not taking personal responsibility for everything that happens within the scope of your life, it's time for us to rise to that occasion, because we're actually, in a way, if you will, based on what you've been describing, being given the tools and being shown the way of how to use those so that we can move in that direction that you've been talking about, which is to heal ourselves and to heal our world as well.
Exactly. And we are accelerating. And it is really, really important when I say we need to take responsibility, because our thought forms are manifesting so fast. So when people say, well, what do you predict in the future? What's the predictions, as we are on the show right now? All of us and our thought forms are like liquid in the future, and they formulate and come together based on energy, karma, and the collective, and how the collective is vibrating about that feeling. And so if we all feel a deep state of peace, we have an effect on what's going on in the Middle East. We have an effect on North Korea, because we are, and we're completely radiating this vibration of peace, and that affects everyone. If we're in fear and we're saying, oh my God, there's going to be this and that, and and we're really fearful, it may not manifest immediately, but there is that future creation that's happening that might bring that manifestation into form. So I tell people all the time, be very mindful of your thoughts and what words are coming out of your mouth, because now more so than ever, we are manifesting things really fast, almost immediate, and it's time to, like I said, take responsibility for that and be responsible for the energy, the vibration that your words carry, because those words go out into the universe, and the universe says, oh, fear just came out, let me send some fear back. No?
Yeah, it's really interesting how that works.
It is. The other thing that's interesting that I really want the listeners to know is measles and mumps and tuberculosis are making a huge comeback. And there's a lot of people, particularly in Europe, that are coming down with measles and mumps and TB, and I know there's cases here in the United States as well. And this is, like it's really interesting. It's like a karmic visit to something we've already gone through in the past, but here it is again. And how are we going to deal with it now this time around? And there's a lot of diseases that people are going to encounter based on their karma. So how do you deal with that? The more, like I said, the more that you can be in a state of peace, you can, forgive your past, forgive the people of your past, you're releasing more and more karma. And that's not easy to do. It's real tough when you get somebody into the depth of, are you ready to forgive that person? And if it's something that's really hard that's happened to them, a lot of times it's like, no, I hate them. I'm not going to forgive them ever. And for those of you who have that kind of situation, I want you to really think about that, because you want to be free of those things so that you're not attracting the energy, the vibration, the feeling that would then also bring some kind of illness or disease into your body.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that point up the way that you do, Sonja, because just recently I had seen, and I can't remember if it was a movie or a show, I don't even remember where it was, but they had quoted Sun Tzu, which I had read fairly thoroughly years ago. But when they used this particular quote, they actually extended more to it. And I was like, I remember reading that, but I didn't quite understand what the meaning was then. And it's simply this: to know your enemy is to know yourself. And then they went on to say, in your lifetime you will fight many battles without any real danger. Mm-hmm. Now, years ago I didn't really get that. But now I do, especially based on what you're saying. All the battles you're fighting, each and every one of us, are really battles within ourselves.
Right, exactly.
And that as we can get into that habit, as you were saying, of compassion, of forgiveness, to realize that's not my enemy out there, it's my perception of who I am through this person that's the real enemy, that things really do get easier. And it's hard at first, but it's about creating that habit. It's like catching that thought when you have a reaction to something that's happening. You know, I'm about to react in this particular way, maybe not in a positive way, and you catch that reaction, you get into that habit of catching those reactions. And I would say the best way to start exercising this personal power is sit and watch the news and realize how many reactions you have to what's being fed to you. You know, and see how you can get into that habit of working and forgiving and clearing those reactions, much like Dr. Hugh Lenwitz, who would be kind of considered the founder of the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono, says, you have to realize all the bad that goes on in your life. Don't you notice that you're the one that's in the middle of it?
Right, and identify where, whatever it is that's bugging you, identify where you might have actually had another person feel that from you. And then heal that, because that is so powerful. That is taking true responsibility for that energy, for that feeling. It's owning it, and by owning it and healing it, you subsequently heal everybody around you. Your kids, your spouse, your parents, everyone gets healed. And I love his work, and I think it's so powerful for all of us to recognize that all of these things that drive us crazy are also within us. And all we need to do is really come to terms with that.
So basically what it's being told to us here in a nutshell from Sonja Grace for the listeners out there, the predictions for 2016 are simply this: pay attention to what's happening, what's coming up, and take responsibility for all of your experiences with any of it, and see what you can do to master yourself as you easily, hopefully, get through this chaotic 2016. Now, Sonja, I know that you had done predictions for National Enquirer last year, and I understand you're going to be doing that again this year. When can we anticipate that particular issue to come out?
It already came out. It came out, I think, a week ago, so it might still be on the stands. And it's interesting, you know, because it's all predictions about people in Hollywood and that
of course.
world. Yeah. But the you know, the biggest thing I can say to your listeners is don't forget, this is the year of transformation. So whatever it is that you want to transform, your thinking, you know, your attitude, your beliefs, you know, your expectations, whatever it is that you want to transform, this is the time to do it. And to remember that what your thoughts are doing, where your thoughts are going out into the universe, and more so when you put them into your words and you speak them. So start paying attention to that, because those are the things that are creating your reality. And as I pointed out earlier, there's multiple realities on Earth. We all have these different, you know, views and focus and awarenesses of what is happening. And that is a way for you to understand where you're at and hopefully go into a deep state of peace, so that that's truly where you're living. I have a great meditation retreat coming up, Dan, in Hawaii in March. So for people who really want to go into this deeper with me, that would be a great place to do it. I also have one coming up in Scotland in May for those of you who want to run away and be an outlander.
Or discover the Loch Ness Monster. It's your choice.
Right. But that's a 5-day meditation retreat, and I'm a really firm believer, and I teach meditation for a reason, and that is to help people get back to it's an inside job. And all this stuff going on outside of us is the chaos, it's the distraction, it is truly what will pull you off center. So we have to respect it, we have to observe it, but not engage in it.
Very good. Sonja, as always, it's a pleasure to have you here on the program today. And for our listeners out there, if they want to discover more, where can they find you?
My website is Sonja, S-O-N-J-A, Grace, Grace.com. And I've got a fan page on Facebook, Mystic Healer Sonja Grace. And I'm on Twitter, Sonja Grace Guide, so you can find me all over the place.
Well, there you go. We want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program today. Very encouraging insights that we have here coming from you on 2016 and the predictions. Thank you again for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you, Dan.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there. Again, as we've been saying through this whole program, we've made some predictions, but it's ultimately up to you how 2016 turns out. You are personally empowered to decide how that happens. And one empowering thing you can certainly do is at your fingertips, type in beyond50radio.com, that is the number 50. Discover what we're up to there as well, and sign up for our weekly e-newsletter as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to the Beyond 50 Radio program. You can follow us on Twitter at Beyond 50 Radio as well as Facebook. And as always, remember, live your day past halfway.